Hi, I'm Maarten, and I'd like to briefly introduce you to our work on integrating environmental DNA in Australian marine parks. Before I get into project details, it's good to understand just how large Australia is. So compared to Europe, we're looking at this size. This means that the marine environment in Australia is very varied, with habitats ranging from coral reefs to Antarctic seas. There's plenty of shallow water environment, but there's also kilometer deep sea canyons. Above all, many of the environments are very, very remote, which poses quite specific challenges. Australia's highly varied marine environment is represented by over 100 marine parks, which together make up more than 3 million square kilometers surface area. This means that some parks, for example, the Coral Sea Reserve, have got a larger surface area than entire countries in Europe. So there's six national networks of marine parks, and then the 7 states have a combined 54 parks as well. At present, monitoring Australia's marine parks happens mostly using traditional methods. So I think BRUVs, ROVs, SANES, and so on. Much of the monitoring is decentralized, which each of the 7 states with marine parks having their own different monitoring policy. And the Commonwealth or national marine parks, which are managed centrally, but their issue is that they don't really have an existing monitoring framework. It's something they are working on, but a real policy won't be in place until 2023. So there's a few big barriers to eDNA in Australia. One of the questions I get a lot is about reliability and how eDNA compares to more traditional methods. Another thing managers definitely want here is abundance data, which, as we know, can be quite tricky with eDNA. And then linked to the massive surface area that needs to be monitored and managed are the big costs and the lack of expertise. When we're looking at an area that's larger than Europe, it's quite hard to find enough experts to do the work or at least the analysis. And also quite typical here in the structure of marine parks is that there's different levels of government who decide what happens or what cannot happen, which means that any uptake of new methods can be quite slow. So what we're trying to do with this roadmap is to have a very collaborative project where from the get-go, we're working very closely with marine park managers to find out what their needs are and start building up from there. At the same time, we're working with the Australian eDNA community to develop an Australian standard for marine monitoring with eDNA as well. What we're aiming to get is a set of very practical guidelines for non-experts on where they can integrate eDNA and how they would do it if they want to. What is important is to be realistic in these guidelines. As we're working with government-mandated monitoring, methods have to be quite tried and tested and validated. So more experimental eDNA work, whether it's abundance or population connectivity, won't really have a place just yet where we're at now. To finish this very brief introduction to our integration project, I'd like to reach out to colleagues who might be working on similar things. I'm definitely very interested in learning more about European monitoring programs and where they succeeded, but importantly, where they did not succeed as well. I'd like to find out more about how standardization is going in Europe. And if people are interested in future collaborations or just a chat, my contact details can be found here. Thanks for your attention.